In this video, I'm gonna share with you the top 5 self-help slash personal development books that has made a very huge impact on my life, changed my attitudes, and changed my mindset, and that I would definitely recommend that you should read. So I'm gonna tell you all these books, and towards the end of the video, I'm gonna share with you a bonus book if you're someone like me who's a self-starter who wants to explore the creative field and needs some help and guidance in how to get started. So make sure to stay tuned until the end of the video. So coming in at number 5, and this is definitely a book that I would recommend if you're someone who's just new to personal development slash self-help. And this book is called The Mountain Is You: Transforming Self-Sabotage into Self-Mastery by author Brianna Wiest. So as the title suggests, this book is about self-sabotaging behaviors that we all have, why we do it, when we do it, and how to change in order to discover our true potential, build emotional intelligence, and also of course build good habits. So as you could tell, it explains how the mountain, or a metaphor for the challenges in our lives, is actually us. So we must do internal work within ourselves to really discover or kind of uncover the effects of maybe past traumas that we've had, how that's impacted us in our lives, and how we can learn from them in order to master our own selves. Now, I think this is a great book to start with if you're new to self-help and personal development, because it kind of makes you analyze internally things that maybe you've been suppressing. It makes you take a deeper look at yourself and become self-aware of these behaviors and these thoughts and attitudes that you might have. So I definitely recommend reading this book. Now, this book is available on Amazon, but I'll put the link down below where you could buy this in Amazon, and there's also a link. There should also be an option to buy it in Kindle. Coming in at number 4, and this is actually 2 books. This is a very popular book that you might have heard of already, and it's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F. And the second book, Everything is F. So this is a book by Mark Manson. Now, it's been a few years since I've actually read both books, but it's definitely made a huge impact on my life, in a way that I even got a tattoo of one of the philosophical principles that he talked about, which is amor fati by Nietzsche. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but this is my tattoo right now. It's written in fancy italics writing, amor fati, with a sunflower because I like sunflowers. Now, basically, amor fati means the unconditional acceptance of all of life and experiences. So if I would put it into my own words, it's kind of accepting both the good and the bad parts of life, and looking at it positively in a way that everything that happens in life, whether it's good or whether it's bad, is just part of it, so might as well enjoy it. When I read this book, I was kind of like in a rough patch of my life. So when I read it, it just gave me this kind of like light bulb in my head and made me realize that, you know what, yeah, what's happening in my life at that point in time might suck, but that doesn't mean that my life actually sucks. It's just part of living. So that's definitely one of the biggest takeaways that I have, and I believe that this concept was talked about in the second book, which is Everything is F. I definitely recommend reading the 2 books. So start with the first book, which is The Subtle Art, and the second book, which is Everything Is. Now, coming in third at my list is Mindset: Changing the Way You Think to Fulfill Your Potential by Carol Dweck, and this is an updated version as well. So this is actually a really great book that I read recently. So just as a quick summary of this book, is about having the growth and the fixed mindset, and what those mindsets looks like and how we could change it so that basically we can have the growth mindset in life. Now, it talks about mindset with the growth and the fixed mindset in a lot of sense, like business, relationships, parenting, all that kind of stuff. I think for me personally in my life, what hit me the most with it was when it talked about relationships and what it was like to have a growth versus a fixed mindset in relationships. And I definitely resonated with the things that it talked about. That being that I've always, I guess, unconsciously had this mindset sometimes, even though I don't want it. I've had, I guess, this mindset that a relationship, if you're the right person for me, then everything, I guess, should be perfect, right? Like, if we have to put work into it, if we're having lots of problems, then that must mean that we're not right for each other. Now, that is actually very much a fixed mindset, in a way that we're thinking that, or I'm thinking that a person and a relationship and how we interact with each other is fixed and it can't be changed. So if there's a problem, then that must mean we're not gonna work out. And I'm definitely guilty of this mindset. But after reading the book, it actually talked about how in relationships, same with business, parenting, and other examples, nothing is really fixed. So we could actually develop relationships, we could develop ourselves, we could develop our abilities, and that's the same with relationships. All of these things can be developed. So that was definitely such a big mindset change for me after having read that. So I definitely recommend reading this book. It's gonna help you not just in your relationships, but in your other aspects of your life. And you will see that most of the reviews would say that this book is truly life-changing. So absolutely recommend to go read it. Now, the second place on my top 5 book recommendations for personal development, and I was almost kind of thinking whether this should be my number 1 or if this is my second, and it was kind of a difficult choice, but I chose to have this as my second book, and I'll explain later. And this book is called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Now, this is quite an old book per se, so it was first published in 1936, and there's actually updated versions available now. But I really think that this book is so great, and I think I can't even fully comprehend or explain it. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like almost everybody on this earth should actually read this book. Some of the best teachings of this book is kind of how to be a likable person in a truthful way, not in a fake way. How to be a likable person and how to not be a dick, basically. Right now, this is actually the book that I'm reading currently, so I'm still in the process of reading the book. I haven't fully finished it, but I actually made a notepad on my phone of all the principles that I'm learning. But just some examples of some principles that seems very obvious, seems very common sense that people should know how to do that, but it seems obvious, but it's actually not, and a lot of people don't even realize what they're doing. And some of these principles include not criticizing other people, showing genuine appreciation towards others, and even principles such as smiling or using someone's name. It's like a manual on how to be human, I suppose, in terms of socially. I feel like it's gonna increase your confidence, and it's gonna make you feel that you're more ready to go out into the world and take on what it has to offer you. So again, absolutely recommend the book. And if it wasn't for my number 1 book that I'm talking about next, this would probably be my number 1. So absolutely have a read. And last but not the least, coming up at number 1 is none other than Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits is actually one of the best books I have ever read. I would read a lot of books and a lot of self-help books, and most of the time, to be honest, I don't even finish the book because sometimes it just doesn't resonate with me. Sometimes it's too hard to understand, you know, all these big fancy words. Now with Atomic Habits, for me, it was so easy to read, so easy to understand. It was written in a way that was simple enough for almost anyone to be able to understand and implement in their lives. And I really enjoyed reading it. So if you're not familiar with Atomic Habits, the whole concept of the book is, I guess, how to build small habits that are achievable. So it talks about how even the small habits that we form every day that becomes part of our day-to-day lives ultimately ends up making such a big impact or making remarkable results, as the title suggests. And I think this book is just a toolkit for basically how to build good and positive habits in our lives that would ultimately help us in becoming successful and effective people. Right now, this book is still very popular. For anyone who's into personal development, self-help, self-growth, whatever the term is, I absolutely recommend reading this book. So those are my top 5 self-help / personal development book recommendations that has made a big impact on my life and that I think you should read this year. And now time for the bonus book that I talked about at the beginning of this video. It's actually a really good book for those who wants to get started or is already on their journey of creative expression in different senses. Music, art, writing, content creation, people who wants to hopefully make something out of it. And by make something out of it, I mean turn it into a business or an income source. And this book is called Show Your Work by Austin Kleon. Now, as I've mentioned, Show Your Work is a book that kind of encourages people and tells people to show their work. But just by putting it out there, you don't have to be an expert, you don't have to you know, have all these skills and knowledge before you start doing something. It's just a matter of showing your work, and talks about different ways of how you could do that. It's not necessarily about self-promotion, but as Austin Kleon has highlighted, it's about self-discovery and letting other people in, allowing them to see your work, see your process, and learn from that. And from there, you could build a community of like-minded people. And of course, with showing what work, it requires being open and being brave and being willing to take criticisms, and that's very scary, but this book talks a lot about how to combat that. So I definitely recommend it if you're someone like me who's kind of started the creative journey of creating content and just being able to show my work and what's the process like for me. So thank you so much. That is all my book recommendations so far for personal development. I actually mainly write about personal development on my blog, which is right now, because I'm cheap and I don't want to buy a domain just yet, it's julesortega.wordpress.com. I mostly write about these things, but now I'm trying to introduce it to my YouTube channel and also sharing my personal development journey. So if you like that, then make sure to hit subscribe down below, and don't be scared to leave a comment about what your top book recommendations are, or if you have any thoughts or suggestions to what kind of content you might want to see about this topic. So thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye! You made it through the end of this video. I'm gonna let you in a little secret, and this is what my setup was like when I was filming that video. This is my fancy setup. So I've just got the computer chair, my Udi, and some boxes because I broke my tripod, so that's just how we do it. So if you did get through the end of the video and you saw that, put a comment down below. See ya!